Love it or hate it, Hearthstone is the juggernaut of online card games, and in this video I'll be giving my opinions on the best and worst decisions the Hearthstone team has ever made. Let's start with a good one. Hearthstone was largely inspired by Magic the Gathering, the first and the most successful collectible card game. In Magic, your mana is gained from special land cards. You can play one land per turn, and on each turn you can tap each land once to gain a mana. When this system works, it provides momentum to the match. At the start, you can only play things worth 1 mana, but over time, each player can make larger and larger plays until one of them wins. But this land system is also vulnerable to randomness. A good hand has to contain cards you want to play and also resource cards that you need to play them. Drawing a full hand of lands is bad because you have nothing to play with all that mana, and drawing a full hand of non-lands is even worse because you can't play anything at all. In Hearthstone, things are way simpler. Each player gains 1 mana crystal per turn until they reach a maximum of 10. Player 2 also gets the coin, letting them gain an extra mana crystal on 1 turn only. This means that drawing a handful of high-cost cards isn't so crippling. You'll be able to play that opening Obsidian statue eventually. Whereas in Magic, drawing a handful of expensive cards with few lands is often fatal. So I'm a big fan of mana crystals. They're both simpler and more reliable than the resource systems that came before. Now for the bad. Hearthstone really pushes its ranked mode. It's the default option under the first button of the main menu. But in my opinion, this mode is really poorly thought through. The rules are simple enough. When you win a match, you gain a star, and when you lose a match, you lose a star. After gaining or losing enough stars, your rank moves up or down. But the problem is that the outcome of a Hearthstone game is pretty random. Even the best decks rarely have more than a 55% win rate against the meta. That doesn't mean that Hearthstone requires no skill. Constructing decks, trading damage, and predicting your opponent's cards all add a rich strategic layer to the game. But it does mean that playing a single match gives a poor indication of who played better. To work that out, you need to play several matches, so that the random elements start to cancel out. This translates to a lot of time spent moving up and down, over and over again until your average win rate finally drags you into the next rank. And maybe spending all that time ranking up wouldn't be so bad, except that every single month there's a ladder reset and they shunt you several ranks back down, back to square one. You do get some rewards when this happens, but they're so meager that they feel more like pity than a genuine incentive.
Please, sir, I want some more.
They could have mitigated a lot of this frustration with an ELO system, where you gain more points for beating a stronger opponent, helping people reach a sensible rank more quickly. Hearthstone already does this for Legend rank players, but most people will never reach anything close to Legend rank. Fortunately, I can always just play casual mode instead. In most card games, your actions are limited to the cards that you've drawn, but in Hearthstone, each class gets a unique hero power, which can be used once per turn for 2 mana. This means that you can still make a play even if you've drawn bad cards. They can also help support your deck's strategy. For example, Buff Paladin can summon a small minion using their hero power and then buff it with their cards. They also act as a mana sink, helping you finish each turn on curve. And some cards even synergize with your hero power, like Blackwalled Pixie, which lets you use it twice in 1 turn. These powers are normally mana inefficient, so you're not going to use them every turn, but it's still nice to have the option, and they're pretty versatile for such a simple mechanic. So it's no surprise that several later card games like Duelist and Gwent have copied the idea. But this also leads into my next criticism. I can admire the ambition in creating 9 unique classes. World of Warcraft itself had 9 original classes, and I can see why they'd want to make all of them playable in Hearthstone too. But in practice, this has sliced their development focus very thinly and caused a host of downstream problems. Matchups are combinatorial, so with 9 different classes, you get 45 unique class matchups. And that's before we even consider what cards they're running. Even Magic the Gathering, which has just 5 colours, often has problems with one of the colours not feeling distinct enough, usually red, and one of the colours being too powerful, usually blue. Making things worse, some hero powers are clearly stronger than others. Warlock can spend 2 life to draw a card, which is almost always useful. Priest can heal things, but this depends on currently owning a damaged character that you can heal. It's very situational.
The light shall burn you.
And Shaman's totems are so random that you're always crossing your fingers when you press that button. On top of all of this, the competition for space means that each class only gets 10 new cards with each expansion. And unlike with Magic, you can't combine multiple classes into the same deck. This severely limits the decks you can build and makes balancing each of the classes even harder. Personally, I wish that they'd split up the game more coarsely, for example into Alliance and Horde classes. With fewer classes, each one can contain more cards, opening up your deck building options. And when a new expansion releases, they could devote more cards to each new archetype. Hearthstone has always contained a lot of random effects, and sometimes the RNG can get pretty bad. For example, the infamous Goblins vs Gnomes expansion contained this card, Unstable Portal. It gives you a random minion and discounts it by 3 mana. Now a lot of the time you'd get a River Crocolisk or a Wisp, which essentially wasted the card, but sometimes you'd get a 5 mana Tyrian Forgery and you'd pretty much just win the game outright. The massive variability on this card meant that most mage decks would include it, and it left many matches at the mercy of extreme RNG swings.
Holy shit! Wow!
From a competitive perspective, this can be really frustrating. But people play games for lots of reasons, and while this randomness does de-emphasize player skill, it also makes the game more surprising, unpredictable, and varied. And so, in an effort to strike a better compromise between skill and luck, the Hearthstone team eventually invented the Discover mechanic. When discovering, instead of gaining a random card, you're presented with a selection of 3 random cards, from which you can choose your favorite. Now this may seem like a small change, but it makes a drastic difference. For starters, it gives the player some agency over their random effects, reducing the risk of frustration. You're also much more likely to end up with a powerful card, and this consistency helps designers keep the mechanic balanced. It also lets you play with cards that aren't in your deck, or sometimes with cards that you don't even own. You could Raven Idol into Stonehill Defender into the Lich King, or you could Hallucination into Primordial Glyph into a Blizzard. Discover is definitely a random mechanic, but it's a random mechanic that gives you one hand on the steering wheel. This lets the players retain some agency even as the game throws surprises at them. And while this still might not be ideal for competitive players, it injects a whole lot of fun factor into the game for more casual players. So I think that Discovery is one of the best mechanics in the game. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Hearthstone's obscene pricing model. The cards come in packs of 5, and there's a very high chance that 4 of them will be commons and 1 will be a rare. You'll only get a legendary card once every 20 packs on average, and packs are priced at £1.50 each, which means that £30 worth of packs will only get you 1 legendary card. When you consider that they release roughly 70 new legendaries every year, the price of a full collection becomes mind-boggling very quickly. And we haven't even talked about epics. You can disenchant your bad cards to craft better ones, but the refund rates are terrible. You need to destroy 4 of your legendary cards just to craft 1 new legendary. You need to destroy 320 common cards just to craft 1 legendary. This Polygon article estimated that you'll need to pay $400 per year just to get most of the meta cards. Not all of them, mind you, just most. Not even mobile games have the nerve to charge this much. Since last September, Activision Blizzard's share price has lost nearly 50% of its value. The proximal cause of this was their botched reveal of the new Diablo mobile game. But I think it also reflects a deeper problem. Since the 90s, Blizzard has built up a strong reputation with their customers for making high quality and well-supported games. But these days, it seems more and more players feel like Blizzard is prioritizing raw profits over customer satisfaction. And if they don't turn this around soon, they could find that their audience just starts playing different games. After all, many of their top developers have already left the company to start developing different games. Does this negative trend for Blizzard mean they'll finally discount Hearthstone? Or at least discount old Hearthstone expansions? I doubt it. And that's a shame because once you get beyond all the price gouging, Hearthstone is genuinely a great game. If only you didn't need to be trade print Gallywigs to afford it. As always, everything I've said in this video is just my opinion. If you think I'm dead wrong, please tell me about it in the comment section. If you like this video, why not check out some of my other ones? And if you want to see more game design videos in the future, don't forget to sub. I recently started a video devlog for Patch Quest, my monster riding roguelike game. If you want to watch it, you can click through to the video now. That's all for now, thanks for watching.